And today we're talking about 3 innocent mistakes that can make your marketing go wrong. And this is the Demand Gen Daily Podcast. Welcome back to another episode. Ricky, what do we have in store for everyone today?
We're going to be talking about 3 innocent mistakes that can lead you down the path of poor results when marketing goes wrong. These are things that you might have seen them before. We see that they happen all the time with different clients, and this is how you can avoid some of these mistakes. So we're going to walk you through them, and you can make sure that this isn't happening on your team. The first one is missing the nuance. So this is not spending enough time on the details, and sometimes that also equates to not enough budget. We hear this all the time. I just want to dip my toe in the water to see if it works. And we often give this example of a light switch where if you are not actually doing enough, it's going to be very hard to actually turn the light switch on in the first place. And so very often people are dipping their toe in the water and it's just not enough to see the actual result that they're trying to get to. And this can be detrimental because you could be so close to the actual result, but completely miss it and go, that's not worth our time because we just haven't taken it far enough.
Yeah, and marketing is really a game of synergies, right? So when you're doing 1 or 2 activities, like that's great. You add in a third or a fourth one, you're not getting double. Sometimes you can get triple or quadruple because not only are the other tactics also delivering a result, but then they're synergizing with the other activities that you're doing if the activities are being done well. And if they're being done purposefully in a way where you're getting value across each one of the tactics that you're using. And we see this all the time, right? To Ricky's point.
Yeah. And one other quick example of this where you can see this happen is if you have a small budget or a small team and you're trying to do too many different things and everything ends up being at that surface level, and you could find that every single thing basically doesn't deliver results because you're not going deep enough to actually get it to perform. Always make sure that enough effort, enough time, enough budget is being put the tactics you're deploying so that you're capturing the nuance of how that works. Our second example today is not waiting long enough. This is about if you're pivoting too quickly, and we see this all the time with entrepreneurs that are so aggressive. They want to move quickly. They're impatient. And so they're constantly trying to optimize every single day. And what can happen with this, and by the way, if you have enough volume, if you have enough data, if you have a huge budget, yes, you can do this. You can make this work. But especially when you're working on a smaller scale, so for like small businesses, if you're optimizing too frequently, too quickly, you can actually move yourself further away from the results.
And in your opinion, Ricky, like where can people start optimizing, say like on a daily or 2 to 3 times a week kind of basis? What do those budgets look like?
It really comes down to the budget and the number of tactics you're deploying. So if you're doing, let's say, a single campaign and you're running it at a $4,000 to $6,000 per month media spend, at that point, you can start to get into some of these more frequent optimizations. Maybe you're looking at every couple days, maybe you're looking at once a week. But if you're below that mark, you're going to have a very hard time with just optimizing too frequently because you're not getting enough data back.
Yeah, and I mean, like a prime example is like we have a few clients that they're in the like 50, 100K like a month mark in terms of media spend, and like you're in there every day. But on the other hand, we have some other clients that are in that 5 to 10K media spend range, and the frequency just can't be that high, especially if it's spread out between multiple platforms, multiple campaigns, because you need enough data on a per campaign basis to actually make choices about what to optimize.
And a really quick example of this is an average conversion rate across all industries. Let's say for Google Ads, they'll tell you that an average conversion rate is roughly 2%. If you're only getting 20 clicks or 30 clicks, you're not even reaching the point where you're going to get a single conversion. So if you're turning things off too quickly or pivoting until you have the actual volume you need to have a critical mass, you will have issues because you'll never actually reach the result. And getting into our third point, not looking at the metrics. Nick, maybe you can walk us through this one, looking at LTV versus CAC.
Yeah, I mean, like this is an easy one, right? It's easy to say, hard to do. So people generally look at like certain KPIs. They get fixated on certain KPIs, like number of leads. So there's a prime example, like we have a client in the home services space where they are basically looking at number of leads, and their success metric is number of leads. And we basically turned that on its head and said, look, we know that these generic leads, like 80-90% of the type of work that you do, we know it's like an average of $500 to $1,000 closed per lead, right? But this other service that you have for like commercial buildings and also for homes is for a home is like anywhere from 8 to 15K, and for a commercial applications like 40 to 100K. And we realized that the cost differential between the leads is like under $100 for one and only $200 for the other lead. But the other lead closed is literally on average 20 times bigger. Get 10 to 20 of those leads of the bigger sale for that client, and they're basically paying off their entire marketing budget and everything on the first lead that they close every month, and are still profitable overall on everything. And then every other lead is gravy over top of that.
Exactly.
It's so big and the customer acquisition cost is so low that it's just, if we were to focus on lead volume, we would definitely miss it because the leads are more expensive. But the sale's just so much bigger that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it can be very misleading from an optimization standpoint when you're not looking at the specific service of the business and you're not looking at those metrics and you're just looking at what does a conversion cost me, because a lot of people would look at that data and go, oh, cheap conversions, those are the ones I need to go for to save money, but not always the case. So make sure you're looking at the right data points when you're making these decisions.
Excellent. Yeah, and once again, thanks for joining us. Please remember to subscribe, leave us a comment. We'll answer your questions in an episode. Until next time.